I'm one of the HR business partners here at Dementia UK, as well as a mental health first aider. And I'm here to talk to you today as part of Dementia UK's Summer School 2021 about self-care and the importance of looking after yourselves while caring for others as health and social professionals. So hopefully, if technology allows, I'm going to share my screen with you. Just bear with me 1 second. Right, hopefully you can all see that, and I am going to start it from the start. There we go. Okay, so self-care. This word can mean a lot of things to many people, and it's not just about having a bubble bath or a glass of wine. It's about doing whatever you would like to do to look after yourself and to just think about yourself and take some time for yourself. And it can look very different for everybody. The reason self-care is so important is because as health and social care professionals, your work is very demanding, both physically and mentally. And in order for you to be the best you could be at your jobs, you need to sort of maintain your own well-being. And sometimes that can be really difficult, and sometimes you just need to take time out and look after yourselves. And as carers, you often put your own needs last. And of course, it goes back to the old adage of you can't pour from an empty cup. So what I'm going to do today is just talk a little bit about stress and how that can impact our well-being, what can cause stress, and also just some tips and some resources for you to think about areas of your lives where you can maintain your well-being and perhaps improve your well-being. And just sometimes it takes some small little changes to just make sure that we're looking after our bodies and our minds. So firstly, I'm just going to talk a little bit about sources of stress. We all have various stresses in our lives, but sometimes it's not always obvious where that stress might be coming from. So this infographic created by Mental Health First Aid England just really kind of gives you a really good kind of overview of what can cause stress in our lives. Obviously, what's stressful for one person might not be stressful for another person. So we all have our own kind of disposition in terms of stress. But it's important to remember that there are many parts of our lives that can be stressful, and sometimes if one part of our life is stressful, it can impact on another part of our life. And also, stress is very physically and mentally draining, and if it goes unaddressed for too long, that's when it can start to affect our health. This is another thing that Mental Health First Aid England use, and it's called the stress container. You might have heard of it before, but it's a really good kind of visualization of kind of stress and how it's important that we have something which alleviates our stress. So we all have what's called a stress container, and the size of the stress container depends on various things. It can depend on our resilience, our job, our family relationships, all those kind of things. It will kind of determine how big our stress container is. Obviously, we've got stress coming into that container, and if it doesn't have some kind of tap, as it were, then that stress will overflow, and that's when we get mental health problems, when we get physical problems, or when we have this kind of snapping. And what we want to make sure is that you've got those kind of helpful coping strategies, which is the tap, which you'll see at the bottom of the container, so that as much as we've got stress coming in, we've got something alleviating that stress, so we have that balance. So now I'm going to talk about 7 key areas, which are sort of areas for you to think about. And these are ways that you could hopefully look to make slight changes in your life and sort of increase your well-being, make sure you're looking after yourselves. So work is obviously a huge part of all our lives, and it's where we spend most of our lives. And there are some key things that we can do to make sure that we're being healthy at work, both mentally and physically. So obviously regular breaks are important. I know it can be difficult in the sort of settings that you're working in to take those breaks, but it is really important that you take them. Knowing our limitations, both physically and professionally, is really key. I think it's a real sign of strength when you're able to kind of say no to things, and I think we're reluctant to do that sometimes, and I know in your professions as well it's difficult sometimes to say no because of the sort of caring nature of your roles. So sometimes it can be really helpful for us just to think, you know, actually I've got all this on my plate, I can't take any more on, therefore I'm going to sort of limit what I can do. And it's just about sort of having those work boundaries and just making sure that you speak to your line managers or you speak to your colleagues when you're finding yourself burdened with work. And I know that's easier said than done sometimes in the sort of settings that you're in with staff shortages, and you know, especially in this this last 18 months, it must have been incredibly difficult to work in the professions that you all work in. But I think it's about thinking about yourself, and obviously you thinking about your own mental health and your own physical health will improve your sort of interactions with your patients, because as it goes back to what we said earlier, you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you're not at your best, if you're struggling, if you're sort of drowning a little bit in work, then you're not going to be able to be the best person for your patients. So it's about being a little bit selfish and thinking about yourself for the good of those people that you're helping. Time management, I think, is key as well at work. I'm one of those people that really likes to write lists all the time and has a very kind of detailed calendar, because I find it really helpful to tick things off at the end of the day and see actually, oh, I have achieved something today. And I think when you're drowning with work, sometimes that can be really helpful. Body, obviously this is a kind of a no-brainer when it comes to looking after your mind and your body, and they both impact each other. So having a healthy body and a healthy kind of attitude to sort of exercise and eating and sleep can really impact your mental health and improve it as well. So healthy eating, making sure you're getting plenty of water, can really help with your kind of mental clarity. Making sure you're getting enough sleep can be really difficult when you're going through a period of stress. But there are some apps which I'm going to share with you at the end of this session which might go away to sort of help with that. Regular exercise, and also finding some regular exercise that works for you. It's not about, you know, becoming a runner and going for a jog every night if you don't enjoy it. It's about finding something which you enjoy and something that works for you. So be it taking the dog for a walk, rather than driving the kids to school, walking to school, or just taking some time to do some yoga or whatever it is. Work it into your own routine, and then you'll find that you'll find it easy to keep it up as well. Attending medical appointments and looking after your body when you're unwell. It sounds really obvious, but you'll be surprised how many people don't do that because they think, you know, I've got to be at work, I've got to be there for my patients. But if you're not well, sometimes the kindest thing you can do for your patients is stay at home and make sure you're well when you get to work. Safe alcohol limits and things like smoking as well, obviously those can impact our mental health and our physical health. So just making sure that everything is in moderation. Mind. So there are obviously many factors which can kind of impact our mental health, both at work and in our personal lives. And it's about sometimes really sort of tuning in and thinking about what state of mind we're in, recognizing that and thinking what will help. So I think it's about building resilience as well, and finding ways that work for you in that sense. So sometimes it can just be as simple as switching off from the world or switching off from autopilot. We're all so kind of in tune with technology and our phones and our computers that it's sometimes just stepping away from our phones or our computers can really help sort of clear the mind and just allow us to have that break. And also being in the moment. We all know a lot about mindfulness, and I know that my colleague Karen is going to be delivering a mindfulness session later on. And sometimes just being able to kind of be in the present moment can really help have that mental clarity. And paying attention to your senses, you know, going for a walk, looking at the trees, looking at the flowers, or just, you know, when you're eating, really kind of paying attention to the smell, the textures. It sounds really sort of cliched, but you'd be surprised that when you've got a very busy lifestyle and very stressful lifestyle, taking those moments to appreciate things can really help. Tech check. Again, it goes back to just sometimes maybe putting your phone to one side and not looking at it, or putting it to the other side of the room so you can have a bit of time out from your phone and notifications and constant having to be kind of on all the time. Acknowledging how you feel and how things affect you, and understanding that it's okay to feel certain things at certain times, and also kind of thinking about what your triggers are in that sense. Knowing what makes you stressed, what can help your stress is really key as well. and finding an outlet that works for you. What might work for one person isn't going to work for everybody, so not being afraid to try things and decide, you know, actually that doesn't help or that does help, and then going with what works for you. And asking for help is kind of key in all of this. If you're struggling, there's always people there that can help, be it at work or be it family, be it friends. Talking can really help. But this isn't about your cardiovascular health. This is about sort of understanding your feelings and understanding what really makes you tick, I guess, and what nourishes you. And I think a lot of that is around spending time with people that you love. A lot of us haven't been able to do that over the last 18 months, and it's been a real struggle. And I think a lot of people have suffered because of that with their mental health. So it's about getting back that time with those people that you love and the people that make you feel good. Giving yourself praise, you know, being kind to yourself can go a long way, and showing yourself self-compassion and sort of forgetting that idea of perfection. We're constantly sort of faced with social media of sort of this idea of perfection that we always need to be more than we are. But sometimes just understanding that we're enough and that what we're doing is enough can just take a little bit of the pressure off. Confiding in others, if you have those relationships with people, being able to be honest with people sometimes can be a huge source of sort of stress relief, and just being able to talk things through. Practicing sort of gratitude and positivity. Sometimes it can be really hard to be positive and to be thankful for things, but if every day you can just think about one thing that you're grateful for, write it down, it can again be really helpful, because you go back and think, actually, you know, stuff is stressful at work or stuff is stressful in my personal life, but I've got these things to be grateful for. And having fun, you know, goes without saying, you know, if you can, and when you've got time to be able to do that, just do what you enjoy and have a laugh. It can really help. Meaning, this is a sort of a really difficult concept to kind of put into a slide, but everyone has something which gives them meaning in life, and it's really important that you prioritize those activities or those people or those beliefs that give you that strong sense of meaning and purpose, because that's what grounds all of us. That connection, you know, lacking that a connection sometimes can make you feel very sort of like you're drifting in life. And I think tuning in with what you care about, what makes you tick, what you connect with, be it nature, yourself, or a higher power, be it religion, whatever. It's about really making time for that and allowing yourself time for that. And also sort of contemplating things and allowing yourself time to think about things and reflect on things, and have some optimism, or try and have some optimism and have things to look forward to, which, you know, it's that light at the end of the tunnel sometimes. I think all of us in the last 18 months have had to focus on the hope of one day we're going to be able to see our friends or our family, or we're going to be able to do the things we enjoy, and that's what keeps us going. Direction, again, this goes back to sort of having that that goal in life, or having that realistic goal, and being able to sort of focus on something and working towards something is really key, and having structure around our lives, and understanding where we want to be, what we want to do, what we're good at, and having that motivation. And sometimes that can be really difficult, but if you can spend some time reflecting and thinking about what it is you want to do in life and what it is you want to do, be it in your personal life or your professional life, sometimes just having that direction and tuning into that direction can really help. Learning new things as well, hobbies, talents, skills, something that we've all been told to do through lockdown, and it's not just for lockdown. It's something that can really help in, you know, throughout life, learning new hobbies or learning new skills, and celebrating progress as well, and not beating yourself up if something doesn't go to plan. You know, learning from it, reflecting on it, and also just celebrating when things do go right. And lastly, balance. This is, I think, key to everything in life is about balance, isn't it? But especially when it comes to sort of mental and physical health, it's about having a regular sort of check-in with yourself and thinking, you know, how am I doing today? Has something affected me? Should I be kinder to myself today? Should I do something at lunchtime which is going to make me feel a bit better if I've got a tough day? Or, you know, looking forward to having a holiday, booking yourself some time off, whatever it is, make sure you have that balance and you have that positive thing to look forward to. Be realistic, don't overburden yourself, don't, you know, set yourself up to fail. We know our limits, and sometimes we have to remember that. Take time out, identify your triggers. So if you know a specific certain situation is going to make you feel a certain way, try and put some coping strategies in place that will help with that. And reflect on those strategies. What works, what doesn't work. Don't waste time with the things that don't work, and put all your energy into the things that do work. This is another really lovely tool, a weekly wellbeing check-in, which you can just sometimes look at and perhaps think about, how am I feeling today? Sometimes we don't take that time to think that, but we're always asking other people how they're feeling, but it's important that we show that kindness to ourselves. And what things can I do to help my well-being, and what things are stressing me out at the moment. It's just about really checking in with yourself and knowing where you're at so you can do what's best for you at that time. So key things to remember, sort of, I guess, a sort of snapshot of things that I would love you to take away from what I've said today. The number one thing is about being kind to yourself. If you can't be kind to yourself, then who can? Reaching out when you're struggling, be it to a counsellor, be it to a friend, be it to family, be it to your manager at work or wherever. If you need help, please do ask for it. And you'll be surprised that in a lot of your places that you work will have some kind of employee assistance program, which will probably offer some support. So go back and have a look at what's on offer so that you know where it is if and when you need it. And find what works for you. Don't feel like you should be doing this because everybody else is doing it. Do what works for you. Do what works for you in terms of your schedule as well. And it's all about starting small. It's about making small, tiny changes. And it's those small things which can have the biggest impact sometimes. And, remember that you're not alone. We're all in everything together. And sometimes just speaking to somebody else, you'll realise that actually how you're feeling is quite normal. And it's quite common, and I think just having that sense of unity sometimes can be really helpful. I promised you some resources. So these are some apps that you can either get on your phone or you can look at online, which will just sort of help you with your kind of well-being mentally and physically. Nursing You is a free app that's actually designed by nurses for nurses, and it gives you some tips and resources on caring for yourself, and obviously it can be used by anybody who works in the health or social sector. Time and Space is a site which was created by the Royal College of Nursing with some resources around mindfulness for healthcare professionals. It's really worth having a look at it. Again, all free, all online and accessible to everybody. The Eat Well guide will help you maintain a healthy diet, because we all know how important that is to physical and mental health. Every Mind Matters is an NHS app which is focusing on your mental well-being. It allows you to have a quiz and see where you're at, and it will give you some kind of tailored suggestions on things that you could do to help. Active 10 is about sort of making sure you have enough physical stimulation and physical activity, and it allows you to track your steps during the day and set yourself some goals. And then there's Headspace, which will help with anyone who's dealing with kind of sleep issues or wants to get a better sort of sleep routine. It gives you some guided meditations as well, which will help you relax. So I hope you found some of these things useful. I know some of it is very obvious and it's probably things that you all know, but sometimes we're all very good at giving advice to people, not all necessarily very good at taking our own advice. I hope you enjoy the mindfulness session that will be following this, and look after yourselves, and thank you very much.